long, I'm not sure. It's a lot of information, but no, it's been really good. I think there's a lot that has been new to me, but I think that the background that I kind of had before um, really made understanding it, pretty straightforward. So really it's just trying to, get all, I keep saying, get all my plates spinning and just keep them spinning. That's about it.
Okay.
No, project wise, I think things are looking good. I think we pretty much wrapped up for construction this year. So that's fine. Next year, I think we got a good plan for probably I think there's about six culverts, bridges that we want to do that are pretty much ready to go. So we just got to put them out for bid this fall. So that looks good. No, and there's a great team, great folks here, and anytime I've had questions about anything, I can always find an answer somewhere. So it's been great, and obviously everybody here too, has been incredibly helpful and kind of helping me go whichever direction I need to go. So I can't thank everybody enough for that. It's been good. It's been good so far.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work and joining us. Okay, with that, we'll just turn it over to you, Robbie, and
Sure.
Lisa, whatever role you two play in presenting this 10-year transportation plan.
Sure. I will. Let's see if I can't probably get this going. So can you see it?
Yes.
All right. And hopefully, whoops, let's get these flapped. Is it just the plan?
There we see it. Yeah.
Right.
Perfect. Good. All right. So here is, I'll just go over the 10-year transportation plan that got put together. I'll just start into it. So the official name, the Cook County Road and Bridge Plan. We'll just keep calling it the transportation plan though. It was developed to kind of help the highway department, develop a program of road and bridge projects for the next 10 years or so. Instead of just kind of winging it every year, doing this will help us, develop, kind of see a whole broad picture of what the county's needs are. Some of the big things that come out of this are, obviously it has to be fiscally constrained. We only have so much money and, you can only do so much with that. So obviously taking that into account is important. There were a number of community engagement sessions, I believe, that were held. So to help, kind of gauge what the people up here want and what they want to see from the highway department. A big thing too with this is it's not all inclusive. This is just kind of meant as a broad tool. You'll see once we get to the plan or the program later, the stuff in the immediate, the projects we have in the immediate future are a lot easier to gauge versus stuff, down at the 9 and 10-year mark. So again, broad tools, things can be added, moved around, shifted a bit, but just generally speaking, this gives us a good starting point. So a steering committee was put together in 2018. As you can see, there are a number of entities that were represented on that committee from all around the county. And what they did, like I had mentioned, is held meetings from late 2018 to early 2020 to give the public an opportunity to have some input as to what this plan would look like. So that survey that got filled out identified kind of 3 goals, we'll say. The first one is to support the transportation needs of the community, considering economy, the environment, and human wellness. Number 2 is maximizing life cycle of existing roads. And number 3, implement steps towards roadway safety. So based on those goals, the committee put together kind of a ranked 9 system needs that were developed from those goals that I had mentioned. These needs are what is going to help us, kind of determine what gets done in the county for the next 10 years or so. Like I had mentioned, these reflect the community's input and desires. And again, due to our limited funding available, it's a fiscally responsible program. The number one on the list, pavement preservation. Even though we don't have a lot of it up here, I think there's like a little over 90 miles or something. That's still, maintaining our existing infrastructure was identified as something that was important to everybody. So what happens is Cook County is on an even numbered, rating year. So in 2018, when this was developed, we got information on our pavement quality index, so PQI. Essentially, it's a van with a whole bunch of equipment hooked up to it, and it drives around everything that's paved. And so as you can see, there's examples of the different pavement types up here. The good one on the far right probably doesn't look super familiar, but hopefully we'll get there sometime. But the idea is that anything under a 1.8, anything that's rated poorly, those paved roads get reclaimed. Anything that's rated fair would get resurfaced. Number two was bridges. So bridges is kind of a broad term that can also include culverts, but namely culverts that have a span larger than 10 feet. So kind of your big culverts. Currently, we have 58 bridges in Cook County. So what we are planning on doing is replacing deteriorated or restricted bridges on no outlet roads, preserve bridges and deep box culverts, replace unrestricted bridges, and then just as kind of a FYI or fun fact, I guess, too. So currently we have 10 bridges in the county with a sufficiency rating less than 50, meaning they are eligible for replacement. That's not to mean they're going to fall down. You don't have to hold your breath driving anywhere. It's fine. It's just saying when these get to a certain point, they reach the end of their life cycle, and it's time to get replaced. And so this was kind of a cool picture I found. This is under the Gunflint Trail, just up the road from our office here. It's where Little Devil Track River goes under it. The third system need developed was gravel roads. Those we have a lot more of up here. The idea is to look at St. Louis County's gravel road improvement program, in addition to our current maintenance gravel budget. What they do is it's different types of stabilization that go into the gravel roads to help prolong their life. Number four, reconstruction. So reconstruct roads that cannot be preserved or whose life cycle of underlying utilities or culverts is not expected to extend beyond the life of the preservation project. So essentially, if we can save it, we should save it. Five is safety, looking at, vegetation management at intersections, even around, different road bends, and then also looking at restriping if they become too deteriorated. Number six is culverts. These would be more of your smaller culverts. And so enter into, periodic culvert lining contracts, as long as they don't carry trout streams. Number seven, you have sidewalks and trails. So replace or remove deteriorated sidewalks, upgrade inaccessible curb ramps, constructing shared use trails or replace sidewalks with trails if grant funds are available. If there's areas where we don't have sidewalks and there's obviously a need for them, we want to incorporate those. And then considering all modes of transportation when we plan county projects. Number eight, we have invasive plants. I know that's a pretty big thing up here. Is managing them, and so establishing native seed mixes in our ditches, especially along the couple of areas mentioned here, the Gunflint Trail, Scenic Byway, and then within Grand Portage. Also just establishing it really anywhere we can do it. We should try and incorporate native seed mix in. And then lastly, system changes. This is kind of some of the lowest priority things that are, lowest priority items that came out of the survey that was done here. And so, you know, engaging in road swaps, paving gravel roads, widening or realigning roads, adding system mileage, stuff like that is kind of on the, you know, bottom of the list, if you will, of things to consider. So what we're into now is here's the actual program that the steering committee set up. And so you can see here in 2020, you know, pavement, we actually, so between Trout Lake Road and Pine Mountain Road, that finished up this summer. There's a few things on here you'll see here in a second that either are done or got moved into next year or even 2 years from now. So this kind of emphasizes the point of this is a tool. This isn't hard set in stone agenda items. So right now for 2021, Siegel and Large Creeks are both on track. Cross River is on track. Pike Lake Road, we're going to bump to 2022. And then the Safe Routes to School Trail between 61 and County Road 7 over here on the Gunflint is good for 2021 as well. So 2022, at the time this was written, nothing was planned. Obviously, Pike Lake Road will be there along with, you know, other things always come up. And so that there will be other projects that'll happen during that year. Similar with some of these additional years, you can see there's only 1 or 2 things listed. A lot of them have to do with if they're kind of big overarching projects, that's a little easier for us to kind of space out as opposed to, what do I want to say, more the cookie cutter type stuff. So you can see we go all the way to 2029 at this point. And then visually, you can see over the next 10 years, kind of the work, the overarching idea of where we want to work is pretty all over the place in the county. You can see we're on the west end, we're in Grand Marais, we're on the east end, we're up the Gunflint, you know, it's pretty all over the place, which is great. It's a big county. There's a lot of work that has to get done, and, you know, there's no need to just focus on one area. So a similar map that I kind of found interesting when we were talking about pavement quality, you know, here's a map that got put together and it kind of illustrates, it's not perfect. You can see if you got a keen eye, County Road 60 and County Road 14 there aren't paved. And so whoever put this together, you know, made a little boo-boo there. But, you know, the idea is still there. You know, you can see as of 2018, here's kind of the countywide picture of how our paved roads are looking. So really anything that is red or orange should be getting some attention. The biggest thing that I took from the survey was, you know, folks just want us to focus on fixing what we have here. You know, improving existing roads is a higher priority than replacing bridges, adding system mileage, or investing in sidewalks and trails. You know, so if we have roads that can get fixed, if we can start developing these plans to get ahead of, you know, roads that we can't do anything with anymore, you know, that'll help us save money in the long term and, you know, just improve our overall infrastructure. That's all I had on it. I want to open it up if anybody has any questions you want to talk about, you know, any projects that I listed, any ideas you have, feel free. Thanks.
Okay, I guess we'll just go by some kind of a roll call. I'll start with Jenny. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. No, I don't have any questions. I guess I would ask, this is on the highway on your website.
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't know if somebody put it up there before I got here or what, but I will definitely check that out. Do you want it? Should we put it up there?
Well, I think, you know, for people when they have leisure time, because there's a broad area here you're covering.
Sure.
And, you know, just when I talk to folks or they say to me, well, what's going on with this road or this bridge? I could say, go to the highway website.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. I'll I made a note here and I'll talk to Rena and MIS and see if that's something we can get up there.
Okay, great, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, Dave Mills, any questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Robbie. And I think it'd be great to put on the website. I would just highly recommend correcting any of the errors that you found. I think I noticed another one on that map too. So that map is maybe the biggest thing to
Sure.
look at there. But I was wondering if at this point we have any update with the County Road 45 project.
Sure.
I've been getting some questions from constituents, and I really haven't heard much, any updates, and we've been going through lots of transitions. So
Sure.
I guess the time, it sounds like 2022. That's that's hunky dory there, but just scope wise, where things are at, and if you don't want to answer that until we talk more, that's fine too. But it's just on my mind.
Sure. No, I can. I don't have like 100%. This is exactly what we're going to do yet. So where we're at right now, and obviously everyone's familiar with, is that was a big project, a lot of transition, a lot of questions, a lot. So what we kind of decided here at the highway department, and then also kind of after talking with LHB and WSB, the designers and the right-of-way folks, is I think we need, so the reason 2022 happened was we just need some more time to figure some stuff out to get a good product, essentially. What we are trying to get to is a point where we can kind of develop a a la carte menu item and say, all right, I have, whatever, $20 and I can only spend $20. Here's all of these things that we could do along Pike Lake Road, and here's their associated costs, and just pick which ones, pretty much what can we afford to do that is going to make the biggest impact based on, the community's input in that area. So right now we are kind of waiting for the results of some of the borings they were doing along that Cascade River curve. And that would bring us back to, that's another one of those big mini projects that's there, was realigning that curve. And so once we have a cost with that, and then a few other, items that were on there, then we'll be able to make a much better decision, as opposed to, me just saying we're going to do blah without all the information. So that's kind of the plan right now. That's all. That's honestly, now know as much as I do. So.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I think there was just some confusion in the public's eye.
Totally.
Somehow the idea was put out there of rebuilding the bridge there, and
Sure.
versus changing that curve, which the curve of the bridge, of course, makes everything more complicated and difficult. But I'm trying to make that as clear as possible, that cost would be way out of there. One thing I'd also be interested in hearing about is, and super uncertain times right now, and so it's difficult to really think in these terms, for me at least, is just I think the a la carte idea is great, and that'll really help community members be more involved with the process, and just understand the total cost and individual costs and all that kind of stuff. But I was wondering if we could also look at cost effectiveness of various aspects of it, and what is in our best long-term interest.
Yep.
And what kind of funding options are there, even if they're not ideal in the short term.
Sure.
But at least just to get that out there and to talk about it. So, but otherwise,
yeah, that's great.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, Commissioner Dukirk, do you have any questions, comments, Heidi?
Nope. Poor Robbie had to spend an enormous amount of time on a road trip with me, so he's already heard of all of my questions and problems. So
Okay.
It wasn't long enough. We should go on another one.
Okay, no, I don't think I have any myself, so thank you very much
Sure.
for presenting this, and I think with that, we can move on and go to our other agenda item for today, which is the bylaws and procedures.
May I ask a question before we
sure.
proceed?
Yes, go ahead, please do.
We were at a point where we were going to have a last public comment period in the beginning of March 2020. We had a severe weather storm that day, and so we
Oh.
canceled it. Can you hear me?
Yes,
And then COVID hit. And so this plan is basically sitting out there waiting for the decision on the part of the board as to whether we've had enough public input, and that's why we came back to the cow and advertised it, that we can go ahead and put it on the regular agenda for formal approval, or if you feel that we need to do more public input. I mean, we
Yeah,
did
let's
have
op-
this, I'm sorry, we did, Mr. Chair, we did have the survey last summer, of course, with over 200 responses, as well as a number of meetings. So we are looking for some direction from the board.
sure. Yes, well, good question on procedure and timing, and is it the right thing to do? So let's just get some comments. I saw Commissioner Dukirk raise your hand.
Thank you, Chairman Bersheim. Lisa, has there been any contact in the highway department since March from anyone with questions or concerns about the plan?
There have been none, Commissioner.
Well, with that, I feel comfortable with moving ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Mills?
As a retired bartender, I think we should maybe just do a last call for public comment. But keep it, we don't have to do a month last call, a couple of weeks or something, but just to throw it out there, there's been plenty on everyone's plates in our entire community. So I don't think it's necessarily in the front of the general public's mind. Yeah,
Okay,
but I'm pretty comfortable in general. It just one last chance won't hurt, unless timing is a huge issue for getting this finalized.
is it Lisa or Robbie? Okay, all right. Jenny, questions, comments on that?
Well, what would be the format then for the next couple weeks? How would the public know that they would have a chance for comments?
Well, I would assume that it'll be part of our minutes here, and there could be something sent out as a news release. Is that possible? Lisa, you're very good at that. And just say we could extend this by 30 days if that's all right. And then if you do announce, if it's possible to put it on the website, do that and announce it. And would that be sufficient?
It's,
And we can put it on the board agenda at the end of October.
and Mr. Chair, how would you like individuals to provide their comments? Do you want them to email the highway department, our administrator, the engineer, excuse me?
I would think it'd be best to include, your department. And if you want to put the commissioners on there, that's fine too. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know unless there's other ideas, but it could go to RENA, commissioners, highway department. But I think the best recipient of it would be the highway department. And then you could present that at some point in time to us. But it doesn't seem to make much difference to me, as long as they have the opportunity for input. But any other thoughts on that from the commissioners or from Robbie or anything? Heidi?
What usually happens is there's no comment until we approve it, and then we're a bunch of idiots. So I'm totally fine with us having an extended period for comment, and completely expect that after we approve it, we'll hear more about it.
Okay. Okay, so is that understood? There'll be some kind of news release and then opportunity to contact the highway department, the administrator, or the commissioners. But I think it should focus on receiving it in the highway department, if that's possible in your wording.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chair, may we put a quote from you about your desire to provide one opportunity during the pandemic, one last opportunity during this pandemic for the public to comment?
Yes.
Thank
Yes, thank you. Yeah. good idea.
And is this for 30 days?
I would assume that would be, usually that's the, I don't know, it just comes to my mind as the most common practice.
Okay. Okay, I'll spread the word.
Okay, does that take care of it?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa and Robbie, for all you do in your department. Yeah. Good plan. And hopefully it'll all work out, but it'll change, that's for sure. Okay, let's move on to our other agenda item, which is the bylaws drafting in sections 5 through 8. And Attorney Hicken, thanks for all your work on this. We've started to work on this in some other meetings, and we want to try to finish this year and get it in place. So I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Hicken at this time to facilitate and go maybe give us your ideas on how we can proceed with this today.
Thank you. Just sharing my screen here. Okay, so right now you're seeing the PDF and you're seeing my Word version next to it. But I'm going to bring up just the PDF to avoid confusion here. I want to first, so do you see the PDF with the that's coming straight from the board packet here? All right. I wanted to start just by a reminder of the importance of bylaws or rules of procedure, the reasons that we have them. So rules of procedure are very important when you have a less experienced board that is not familiar with how to run a meeting and get the business done, or is not familiar enough with each other to be able to work together quite yet, or when there's contention and conflict on the board, because the purpose of bylaws is not just to keep a meeting orderly and efficient and to save time, but also to designate what the rules are when there's disagreement, and to designate and to put the chair as the person in authority to decide when a rule must be enforced or is being violated. And, you know, some of the basics of rules of procedure are these principles that you see on the top half of the page, which determine that the majority voice rules, while every individual voice is heard. There has to be a mechanism by which you proceed when there's disagreement, and that mechanism is the majority vote. I'm hoping that today we can make a little more progress than we made last week or last time that we discussed this. My hope is that if in general we have consensus of the language and just, you know, a single person is in disagreement, that we just keep the language that the majority would like and we move forward. I think that's fair because this is a draft only. What we're trying to do here is to create the final draft, and whoever objects to language that remains in the final draft may certainly bring that up at the meeting where we decide whether to pass this draft or not, and bring up their final objections. I also would really appreciate it if there is if you would like language removed or changed, that you can present alternative language. So not just bring up the problem, but bring up a potential solution. Again, these are your rules, and you ideally, you know them and you've had a part in creating them. Know also that every year these rules of procedure can be amended. Even in the middle of the year, somebody can make a motion to amend these rules. And you can also keep the rules, and somebody can ask to suspend a specific section of them just for a certain discussion or a certain meeting. So they are here as a tool. They are not here as a weapon to bash the chair over the head if they are perhaps proceeding slightly differently. You can ask for enforcement of them, and you can also interpret them a little more liberally or less strictly. I think that last time we were here, we only made it through a couple pages. Just trying to find. I think that we are probably on the making of a motion. So these are really the mechanics. Previously in the bylaws and the rules of procedure, we were going through more general rules, types of meetings, and that kind of thing. Here we are actually laying out the types of action that the board can take, the types of motions that can be made by a board member, and the precedence of motions. So under types of motion, you have a main motion, secondary motion, subsidiary motion, privileged, and incidental motions. So some of these might even be new to you. You haven't used them before. But again, these are a tool for getting the work done and for raising issues during the debate. I assume everybody here has had an opportunity to review this draft. It has been around for several weeks now. So I'm just going to scroll through, and I'm going to ask you to stop me now if there's any particular section that you would like to address.
Okay. Let's just do a roll call on that so we all get input, if that's all right. Commissioner Starley, any, you okay with where we're at?
Right, I'm on the page we're to start on today, 25 or 27.
Okay. Is that understood by everyone? Page 27. Okay, Commissioner Mills, comments, questions, or additions to Commissioner Starley's comments?
I didn't, no, so the only, I don't want to get too nitpicky, but is there a reason why it's called debate versus just discussion? Attorney Hicken?
The debate is a word that's used in Robert's Rules of Order, and we can certainly call it discussion instead. Discussion is probably broader, and debate, what's your concern with using the word debate?
The connotation for me is a little bit more contentious, not as more of a back and forth versus an exploratory of ideas. So I thought the broadness would be a strength, and that's kind of more of the tone I'd like to see in our procedures. But I thought if there was a legal or a particular reason for debate, that I would be fine with that too. But that was where I was coming from. And then I'm sorry, I missed Commissioner Starley's comment about page 27.
Yeah, I was not clear on that. Commissioner Starley, could you?
Well, that's where Molly suggests we start today.
Must be page 27 of the board packet.
Right.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at the document, and there is no page 27. It went from 23 to 29. I was all confused. Okay.
Oh,
thank you.
Right. Yep. There's no reason that I know of that you should not use the word discussion instead of debate. And I can go through this document and do a find and replace and make that change if there's consensus.
Well, we're not going to give a vote, but would anyone object to changing debate to discussion? Then let's put that in for the draft, and we can approve that by an official vote later.
That's great. I'll continue to scroll here. Wait, we still need input maybe from Commissioner Dukirk and.
Yes, Commissioner Dukirk? Questions, comments so far?
Yeah, with where we are in the packet and where we are in the document, I don't think I have any on the page we're currently on. I just have questions in section K. So when we get there, otherwise I don't have any comments. I got the lecture loud and clear.
Attorney Hicken, is it all right to address that concern that which you'd like to discuss now? And go ahead with it.
Sure. Commissioner Dukirk, I'm trying to find the K that you're talking about. On which page?
Attendance on, couldn't tell you what page because it says
Yep.
23 in one section and 12 in another section, and it's on attendance. You have highlighted under terms of office. Yeah, right there. So number 2, Board of Adjustment and Planning is separated from the other ones. And I'm guessing it's because the terms are different than general appointments.
Yes, that's just a different category.
Okay, maybe one thing to add in addition for note is that the EDA, which the county board appoints a commissioner and a citizen, that's a 6-year term, which is very different from our other boards.
I can add a paragraph about EDA appointment and a 6-year term and make that paragraph 4. Does that?
Great, thank you. That was all I had. I got nothing else.
Okay.
6-year term.
Yes, Administrator Rogers, you had your hand up. Thank you.
I do. Molly, on page 21 of the document or page 35 of the packet, I just want to make a note that the diagram that's in there is actually not quite right, and it needs to be revised. The budget advisory is not really one of the standing committees that are part of the governance. The other committees that are listed all have both commissioner and department involvement, where policy is looked at and then brought to committee of the whole and then up through to the board for approval. Budget advisory, PHHS advisory, and highway advisory also have commissioners, but they also have the public. So it's kind of a different group. So this diagram just needs to be revised to be more accurate.
And I think that you provided me a revised diagram.
Attorney Hicken and I had already discussed this, but
Right.
it's still the old version here.
Yeah, I think from our discussion, yes, we would add another line below those others.
Right, it would be,
Correct, with those other,
Mhm.
a little bit of, and with a little bit of explanation. Call them committees. Yeah, or something,
they'd be-
advisory committees, yeah. Is that clear to everyone?
If you'd like, I can see if I can find that chart document structure. I can show it.
Yeah, I think I understand. I don't know that we need to see it now, but
it'll be in the next draft.
yeah.
I'm not finding it right now easily, so.
Right. Okay, so anything else? I guess
There are
Attorney
some,
Hicken, is there anything else that you have to present in this regard, or are we pretty much at that point where we can propose this for our final approval at some point?
I am at a point where I think there is one other section which talks about staff, very like maybe 2 more pages of these bylaws that I would propose I just tack them on to the end of the final draft and draw attention to those before we move on to a vote or discussion of the document as a whole.
Okay,
These highlighted sections under appointment qualifications and procedure, I was hoping that I wanted to draw attention to these in case these procedures as laid out are not accurate. So perhaps administration could get back to me if they see any errors in that. Recruitment and selection, for example, of appointments says it occurs in October, and I'm just not sure of that schedule and if that's accurate. But otherwise, and then there's filling in this highlight part.
right, for number 4.
There's a little bit more input.
So as
But
far
other
as,
than that,
so as far as going ahead, should we schedule another committee of the whole for the other section that you want to present and for one final last look, or can that be presented to us for, a discussion at a board meeting?
I think that's your option. I'm wondering with timing of the new administrator, if you want to leave that discussion until the new administrator is on board, or if you
Right.
want to have this ready to go when the administrator begins.
I think we're looking at October 12th still as our goal for the administrator that week.
Mhm. And then I don't think the last sections are enough to take up an entire committee of the whole. So if we were to bring this up again at another committee of the whole, it would be to again see the entire document. Not sure if you want to spend your time doing that or if you'd rather just put it up for a discussion and a vote at a regular board meeting.
I'm pretty open, I guess, as chair. I would think that's logical. Your discretion, I think, would be important. And if there's something that you feel we should have in a more of a informal discussion at the committee of the whole, fine, let's put it on in the October meeting briefly when we have a committee of whole. Or is any of the commissioners uncomfortable with that? As far as a way to proceed, just take one last blush at this in October and then we could take action on it when the new administrator is in place sometime in November, I guess, right? Go ahead.
Chair, there would be one more board meeting in October after the committee of the whole.
Okay, well, that's fine.
You could-
If that's enough time for the administrator to be on board.
Otherwise, you could decide differently, but you could theoretically have it done by the end of October.
Okay. Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, originally we had wanted to have this all done before we have a new administrator, and just to have a framework for us to work within. And now in the timing that we're at, I do see advantages to waiting until the administrator is in place, just to have his feedback as well, and just any comments there. So originally I was thinking, well, why don't we just knock this out, and we could if we put it in a regular meeting before he gets here. But now I'm thinking that what's the rush? I don't think there's anything too out of the ordinary in the bylaws here, but it'd still be nice just to have his perspective too.
Okay. So Commissioner Dukert, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Bersheim. Yeah, we had hoped to have this approved years ago, and now we're into the administrator, and then shortly after the new administrator looks at it and committee of the whole and end of October, we're looking at not only one new commissioner starting with this document, but possibly 3. So, you know, maybe the board wants to consider not even approving this year, which I hate to say because I wanted this done before I left, but maybe the new board wants to take it up in March of next year when you have a full board on. I know there's some citizens that have concerns about not having representation for their district because we are short 1 commissioner. So I'm fine with it going either way. Obviously, you're all aware that I am the one person in disagreement with some parts of this document, and it will be approved by a majority no matter how I feel or think, but just an option for having the new board also take a vote on it. That's all I have.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Any other thoughts? Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, I'm open to that too. I can see the value of any new board members taking ownership of this and being involved in that process. I really hate to delay it, but I'll have to think about that a little bit more. And no, I had something else, but it'll come back to me.
Okay, I just will call on Commissioner Starling and Rena. I'll go to you if that's all right.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I think this is a big step forward. Whether we approve it or not, I don't think that's as big a deal other than with the new people coming on board. I think it's a guideline for them to begin with. We can, you know, hassle over whether we want to be a discusser or a debater or whatever, but I think we've got some good stuff here. Molly is guiding us in looking at some of the terminology and how things are done, but this is a good start. And I think if we wait till the administrator looks at it, fine. We keep putting it off, as Heidi said, we keep putting everything off. And I would like to see it at least in their final draft for us to look at later in October and then decide how long we want to keep it going. And when we're done talking about this topic, I have a question about the consent agenda. But when you're done with this topic first, then we'll move to that.
Okay, I'll just give my thoughts a little bit. So I have my turn and then I'll go to Rena and then to Dave. You know, amendments and changes can be made by the new board. And so, you know, it could be done where there would be more than likely, hopefully, some kind of work session with the new board members and the current board members and the administration early in January. With that kind of turnover, I think it'd be very wise. So part of that, if we do adopt them, and I'm pretty neutral on it. It doesn't matter to me whether we do it now or not, but I think we should at least affirm what the work we've done. And whether we call it a formal action or not, I don't know. That could be part of the discussion later, but there is that option to change. But I would hope that there would be some kind of process work session set up for new commissioners to really go through this material, especially the conduct of the meetings. So then we'll go to Rena, then to Dave, and then to Heidi. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would weigh in, and I know I don't get a vote, but the reason I see value in doing this before a new board starts is new board members may or may not have very much experience with a lot of the protocols in here, or even in understanding the governance or how the committee structure works. And so using this really as a onboarding document was something I sort of saw it as. And I think the organizational meeting that you have every January when you get started and you select committees, you actually can put this on the agenda to affirm it or to change it, modify it.
Okay.
So I I see value. I see value in waiting and having James weigh in on it as the new administrator. I do see value in that. But I think it could be very helpful. Some of the conflict that I've witnessed over the years about when do we have videos and how do we do electronic meetings, and some of those things are addressed in here, and it kind of sets it sets a baseline for how to proceed with those things, so that it's just the way we do business, I guess. Not that they can't be changed, but I think it would be helpful starting with.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, what I had forgotten was what I most wanted to ask about, and that was for Commissioner Dukirk. Just I want to recognize concerns she has within the document, but I'd also make a request just to have alternatives to try to address those concerns, because I think it is worth talking about and exploring, and I think my interpretation is the concerns are largely about the chair's role and potential commissioners not getting heard because of the weight the chair has in kind of facilitating our meetings. And so the point of the bylaws is to bring a structure to the meetings. And so I believe that we need some kind of structure there, but I'm not familiar with a different type of structure that would alleviate those concerns. But I certainly open to it and think it's worth talking about. Maybe not today, but perhaps at the next committee of the whole. I'm open, whatever. So
okay. Good idea. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Dukirk.
Yeah. So a lot of different things have happened since the last time I spoke. I just want to note that I did offer alternatives, and I will be prepared at the next committee of the whole to make note of those. And then January, not to use my potty mouth again, but oh hell no. That first meeting in January is pure hell, especially for new commissioners to come in on that first very long day and pick your committees, and being new and not knowing what you're doing, which goes back to Rena bringing up having this document to help you with that. I think that this document should be reapproved annually or biannually. Might be better when there's new commissioners every 2 years, and maybe doing that in February when the new commissioners have themselves a little more grounded. And I feel strongly about that after Rena spoke, because she said that boards, moving forward, this document says whether or not you have video and what time meetings are at and things like that. And a lot of times when we get new commissioners, they come in and want to change that. So it's a good opportunity to look at the document and go, this is past practice. And yes, we're agreeing to continue past practice, or we want to move forward with different practice. And so I suggest not to do it at the very first meeting, but do it later. And just a reminder, the election for District 1 is not happening with the other election. So you will not have a full board on January, the first meeting in January. So it's a little wonky. I am totally comfortable with us as a board as we currently stand approving the document so that it is ready to move forward. I also agree with Ginny that we can, in essence, agree that this is how we feel and not fully approve it. Or I don't know if she exactly said it that way, but she said she's comfortable with it moving forward as a guideline. So
Right.
I'm totally comfortable with all of the suggestions, and just want to remind you that the first meeting in January would probably not be the best choice for this document to be reapproved.
Okay, thank you. So any last comments? I guess we'll put this on another committee of the whole discussion agenda in October. And then Commissioner Dukirk, if you would have something to offer to us as alternative language for some of these things that have been presented here, we would consider those if you like. And and proceed in that manner. Is there any other comments or concerns about how we should proceed with this in the future? Oh, Commissioner Mills, I didn't see your hand there for a while. Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Attorney Hicken for her work on this because it has taken a significant amount of time and patience, and it's very important. And I just wanted to recognize her work there. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Attorney Hicken. Any other questions or comments, especially Attorney Hicken? You're the one that's going to carry this forward as far as preparation.
Mr. Chair, I believe that Commissioner Storley wished to talk about consent
Oh,
agenda.
that's right. Excuse me. I did actually write that down and didn't look. So let's go back to consent agenda. And if we could go back to that section and you have it up for us. So Commissioner Storley, any more thoughts on that or concerns?
Yes, I have one on that and then another one too. So, I think we've been pretty loose about saying, I'd like to poll so-and-so just to discuss. So there's a difference between discussing and then polling it for a full board discussion on it. So for instance, I like to recognize people who may be retiring or new people on, but I've always been kind of hesitant to pull it for discussion. So my discussion point with everyone is, can we pull to just briefly discuss or acknowledge something and move on? And the difference is we pull it and then we have in-depth discussion and approval.
Okay, who would like to respond to that? Attorney Hicken or Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a really good point. I know it can be confusing as well as to why things are on the consent agenda or not. And I think for retirements, well, I was going to say, I think it's so important to recognize people for their service and for their work. And then the further thought I had is it's so important to be consistent. We don't want to discriminate and say, well, I'm gonna quote unquote pull this retirement and thank them, but this other one not. So I can see things getting a little. I think there's value and consistency there. So I don't know if in commissioner notes it would be better, or if polling is a full-on discussion then, or if you want to have some kind of language about just a notation or a note to the consent agenda that maybe is not standard practice, but just some thoughts.
Okay, just to clarify a little bit, would it clear it up if we just had all resignations not under the consent agenda? And I think some of them have been.
Well, it just isn't just resignations, it's welcoming new people too.
Right.
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
Sorry, I've had my hand up.
I'm
We
sorry,
could
didn't
change.
see it.
We could change the agenda and have consent agenda items, and then below consent agenda items, we could just put in a brand new line that says hire and retire. And it would still be acted upon like a consent agenda, but it would be separate. So then each one could be recognized. Would that be what Jenny was kind of getting at? And then Jenny, on your consent agenda, instead of asking, we could have the chairman, instead of asking, would anyone like to pull anything, we could say, is there any item in here anyone would like to discuss? If that also covers your other concern. That's all I have.
Attorney Hicken, any comment on that?
Just to make sure I understand the proposal, we would change B, order of business, and add after consent agenda something that's similar to hire and retire. hires and retirements. And then just add a section, a paragraph under the consent agenda paragraphs, which explained what that was. And it would operate like a consent agenda, but it would give a separate opportunity to recognize these folks.
Mhm. That was good.
I can make those changes if there's
Okay,
consent.
Commissioner Mills has his hand up.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about this. That would require a separate motion beyond the consent agenda motion, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in support of that, just hires and resignations. Yeah, I think that's good. And hopefully we won't have much turnover, right? But I guess, yeah. But it is noteworthy when changes happen.
Okay, so any objection? I agree with that. I think just making it another agenda item and not recognize the retirements and hires under consent agenda. Okay. No objections to that? Okay, Jenny, you had one more, I believe.
Yes, and I don't know what page it's on, but in regards to commissioners' attendance, is that, do we address that, Molly, somewhere? And toward the end, maybe? Because I don't have that printed out.
I think that's probably in the very beginning. There is, oh no, here we go. It is under K, attendance.
Okay. And the only,
I'm a little, I think that this is under
Oh.
the committees subsection. Yeah, this is under committees, the committees chapter. So this isn't about attendance at regular board meetings or special board meetings. This is about attendance at committee meetings. Which
okay,
kind of attendance were you looking to discuss?
yeah. Well, just in regards to visiting with other commissioners who, for one reason or another, maybe out because, and I'm talking about board, out because of health, or maybe have to have some time off for mental clarity or whatever. I don't know. Is that something that would be part of this? Or is that just an understanding that if you need time away or you have surgery, there's other ways that you can communicate with the board via, and I don't know how we could set that up, YouTube, or as we're doing right now, Zooming from your hospital bed, or Zooming from your recovery at home, or Zooming from, having a mental break, or just, needing some time off for other family members. And I don't know if that is part of this draft, or if that's just something that's kind of assumed that the situation has arisen and that's what they have to do.
Let's see. So the video conference type of meeting is only allowed under a pandemic. I think this would probably be addressed in the first few sections of the rules of procedure, and looking back, I don't think it is a part of our current draft.
Okay.
Other than just talking about when a meeting may take place by ITV or by phone.
Mhm.
There's no attendance requirements for a board member. We do address vacancy.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can come back with some suggested language or for more discussion when I bring the final draft back at the COW in October.
Mhm. I don't know how everyone else feels. I just, I don't know if we need some guidelines on that for new people that we're going to be experiencing and into the future.
You can call into a meeting from a hospital bed, just as, it needs to be from a public place where members of the public could go, I think is the rule.
Oh,
Okay.
into your hospital room.
Yeah, it's interesting that the statute is a little more permissible about allowing phone participation than it is to allow active participation, which I think is a little more meaningful, but.
Sure.
So Molly, when you call in, you can't vote though, right? You can just call in and participate in the meeting.
Yeah, I don't have that section memorized. You could be right.
Yeah, because we had a commissioner that called in and wasn't able to vote, but they were able to participate. So it has happened, Jenny.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, and I think I believe the statute's a little outdated. Maybe they're staying on top of things, but I think this pandemic is going to shed some new light on the statute. Yeah, it was a lot of our bylaws are we're trying to really give some structure to how we operate. And when it comes to those circumstances, it might be worth exploring in writing, but I think it's more or less our duties and roles. We're ultimately responsible back towards the people who voted us in, and so as far as attendance and that sort of thing is concerned, yeah, if medical issues got in the way, I mean, yeah, I don't know how you would make that determination, or what avenues a person would have, but it's. Commissioner Starley, have you heard from other boards then that have had to deal with this, or how have they dealt with it, or any perspective?
Yeah, well, Commissioner Mills, I haven't heard specifics that they have some guidelines for it. Individual cases would be addressed. One commissioner said they had a commissioner on their board who had several businesses, and there were times that the businesses preempted his attending and being a commissioner. So they had to deal with how that particular commissioner needed to know that the public elected her, and she needed to have that as a priority, and she needed to work her businesses in another way. So individually, I guess is what I'm saying, is how most of it was handled from those that I spoke to.
I guess, yeah, in looking at that, as elected officials, there's so many different circumstances, and I believe that there is a process. This is a question for Attorney Hicken, but if someone is not contributing or not, isn't there some kind of process where you can recuse them or not?
There's a process for removal, Mr. Chair.
Removal, okay.
That removal of an elected official requires a petition signed by
Thank you.
a certain percentage of voters who voted them in. But beyond that, there's no, a board can censure another commissioner,
That's
but
what it is.
I don't think that a board could remove a commissioner for violating, rules of attendance. So that's maybe why we don't include something like that in the rules of procedure, because how do you enforce it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Anything else for our meeting today? Last call, as a retired bartender would say. Otherwise, I think we'll adjourn the meeting, and hopefully everyone will have a great day. And thanks for your participation and all your work, Molly. Very helpful for us. And have a good rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.